welcome back to another entry of the DisneyVerse, where we try to connect every Disney animated classic using in-universe connections, Easter eggs and theories, both popular and my own. Without further ado, let's start. In this entry we will be discussing how the 1940 film Pinocchio connects to the DisneyVerse, so before we begin, let's recap the plot of the film. Spoilers abound, so be sure to watch the film over on Disney+. Are you ready? Then let's begin. Geppetto has always dreamed of being a father, but he's never been lucky in that regard, so one night he wishes upon a star, and as he's sleeping the blue fairy flies down and gives life to one of his puppets, Pinocchio, and also promotes a nearby cricket called Jiminy into being his conscience. When he finds out his puppet is alive, Geppetto is overjoyed, so sends him immediately off to school. But Pinocchio is distracted by two crooks, Honest John and Gideon, who sell him to a puppet show, where he's forced to perform. He escapes, strays from Jiminy and finds himself on Pleasure Island, where boys are turned into donkeys and sold to salt mines. Pinocchio is in the process of becoming a donkey like his new friend Lampwick, when Jiminy rescues him. They find out Geppetto, along with his cat Figaro and seductive goldfish Cleo, have been eaten by a whale called Monstro, and get eaten as well. Pinocchio makes Monstro sneeze them out, and because of his bravery, the Blue Fairy turns him into a real boy, and Geppetto's son. And that pretty much sums up this hot mess of a plot. Now it's time for the fun part. When and where is it set? Despite some claiming Pinocchio is set in Germany, likely because of his outfit, Lederhosen doesn't a German make, Pinocchio naturally takes place in Italy. This should be obvious by the explicitly Italian names of the characters, Geppetto, Pinocchio, Figaro, Stromboli, etc. And the original tale was written in Italy too, so it makes perfect sense. As for when Pinocchio takes place in the 19th century, aka 1800s, the film's architecture and costuming seem to confirm this as well. What period of the 19th century? Well, we can't be certain, but the original novel was published in 1883, so we could assume the film takes place anywhere between the late 1870s to mid 1880s, but I believe the film is set slightly earlier than this, and I'll explain why a little bit later. Now the connections. Now we know the where and the when, it's time to get into the how. How does our little real boy fit into the grander Disneyverse? Starlight, Starbright, Wish. That's right, we're back at Wish again. The newest Disney classic really does have the strongest connections to the oldest ones. So how do they connect? Wish is all about wishing. Well, duh. Wishes are physical things in the Kingdom of Rosas, manifesting as orb-like things, and not just wishes, but wishing stars. The character star is a big part of Arsha's story, and the film. They are the embodiment of granting wishes, brought to life by the magic that lives within Arsha. The same magic that helped her become a fairy godmother at the end of the film. Wishes are a huge part of Pinocchio too. The whole story is created because Geppetto wishes on a wishing star, possibly the very same one from Wish. And what comes from the star? The Blue Fairy, another wish granter and fairy godmother-esque figure. But she is not a star, she is a fairy who was summoned by a wish upon a star. I believe the Blue Fairy is from a long line of fairy godmothers started by Arsha. The Kingdom of Rosas is a hop, skip and a throwaway from Italy, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's where she originated. I'm not saying she's a biological descendant of Arsha, but I believe she is a descendant in the same way Jedi Masters passed their knowledge down to their Padawans. We know the Blue Fairy is a fairy because firstly, she has wings, secondly, her name is the Blue Fairy, but thirdly, we have seen her fairy-sized before. In the Silly Symphony short film, The Flying Mouse, we see her in all her fairy glory helping a mouse. This also connects the Silly Symphony to Disneyverse, but we will count that as a bonus rather than adding it to the overall connection count, because we've already got a lot to connect anyway. There is no mistaking the two fairies are one and the same. Perhaps in her training to become a fairy godmother she started off small, before becoming the big deal we see her as in Pinocchio. We will talk more about fairy godmothers as our series continues, but for now, I think we can safely say Pinocchio and Wish are connected, making Pinocchio our 6th connection to the Disneyverse. And if that isn't enough for you, in the credits of Wish we see Arsha's grandfather Sabino literally composing the music for When You Wish Upon a Star, the main theme for Disney which originated from Pinocchio, so the two films are directly connected, which also connects Pinocchio to Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs through Wish. It all connects. I've got no strings to hang around. Tangled. Another direct connection to Pinocchio can be found in Tangled. During the scene set in the Ugly Duckling Inn, a puppet version of Pinocchio can be seen hanging out in the rafters of the inn. There's no denying it's Pinocchio. They look the same and they are dressed the same. But how did he get there? We can assume Tangled takes place prior to the 1840s because of a cameo in another film we will discuss in a future entry, which I'm sure by now you are all familiar with. So, in order for Pinocchio to be present at the same time, the events of the film must have taken place prior to Tangled, but not much earlier. I believe after Pinocchio was turned into a real boy, his story went viral, or at least 19th century equivalent of viral. Geppetto and Pinocchio hit the road, touring Europe, selling wooden puppets of Pinocchio's original form, making them rich. Based on the condition of the puppet in Tangled, it's clear it's fairly new. So someone in the Snuggly Duckling bought it, or let's be honest, stole it, and brought it with them. The occupants got rowdy and threw him up into the rafters, and that's how Pinocchio directly connects to Tangled. If you didn't like the Snow White/Tangled theory from the last time, you can rest knowing that Snow White now indirectly connects to Tangled through detouring through Wish and Pinocchio. When you wish upon Evangeline, The Princess and the Frog. Wish and Tangled are not the only films Pinocchio connects to. It also indirectly connects to The Princess and the Frog, again through the wishing star Tiana wishes on, who is known within the film as Evangeline, lovingly named by Ray the Firefly. Gaia rest his soul. Based on the Blue Fairy's direct connection to this wishing star, I propose that from now on we refer to her as Evangeline. It just seems fitting to me, and is much easier to say than the Blue Fairy over and over again. It's a simple connection, but a prominent one. Tiana's wish on the star doesn't grant her wishes, because the star knows Tiana doesn't need it to. Geppetto can't bring his puppets to life, but Tiana can make her dream of owning a restaurant come true on her own with hard work and dedication. Evangeline knows this, and that's why it doesn't directly grant her wish. Like Tiana says, fairy tales can come true, but you've got to make them happen. It all depends on you. Evangeline does, however, grant Ray's wish to become a star and join the wishing star in the sky once he passes away. It's all very bittersweet, but alas, the Princess and the Frog is still connected to Pinocchio, making it our 7th connection overall. So there we go, we added 2 more films to our connected universe. Next time we will visit Fantasia. I'm not sure how we will break it down, each segment into parts, maybe 2 parts with 4 segments each, which is what I'm leaning towards. But next time will definitely be the beginning of exploring how the segments of Fantasia connect to the Disneyverse. So until then, I wish you Borada, Prinhanda, Noswaifda or Nozda, wherever you are in the world, and remember, when you wish upon a star, your dreams may come true. Ciao.